This is an HR program on demand, a living seed capsule of work life and workplace coming live from a rooftop in Stockholm, Sweden. It's me, Ann-Marie Andrich, and
me, Katarina Berg.
A vodcast, if you like, on HR, straight across the counter. Sponsored by HR The Real Deal, HR by HR for HR. Hello, Johan.
Hi, Ann-Marie.
Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
I am so happy to have you back.
Thank you.
We had such an interesting conversation. The last time you were here, it was last year.
Yes.
We talked about the way that you grow your talent from within, homegrown talent. And I know that a lot of things have happened and you've been working on during last year. So why don't we just do a recap? Walk us through.
Yeah, I will do my best. When you asked me to be here, I was, of course, preparing a bit and starting to reflect, and it's a lot. So if I remember correctly, a year ago when I was here, we talked mostly about the focus on internal mobility.
True.
And how to inject some new mindset, some energy into that. How will we stay true to our beliefs around homegrown talent, but still have more internal mobility within Spotify? And looking back, that was the right call at the time. But I'm also very proud today to see that we are not that focused on the term internal mobility in silo. It's more about our growth philosophy, and it's one part of our growth philosophy nowadays, if you look back a year. I think I take that as a good result, that it's more business as usual now, and that we are making the right steps in the right direction around our growth philosophy in the new business environment that we are operating in.
Because I think when we talked the last time, Spotify has been in hyper growth for quite a few years. And then you went into a mode where you were like, okay, so we're not going to grow as rapidly anymore. What does this actually mean for our people from what does that mean for Spotify? And how do we make sure that we develop and retain?
Exactly.
So that was the shift, right?
It was a shift, and
even though you always had the growth mindset as one of the core.
Yeah, but I think I framed it that from hypergrowth, when a lot of business leaders were incentivized to grow their teams.
Right.
Now we had to optimize for something else, to making sure that the right talent stay on the long run for the right reason. And as you say, that has always been our philosophy.
Yes.
Homegrown talent. I think Katarina, our chief HR officer, she said that the early days she had a meeting with Daniel. He said that he wants people to stay for 8 years.
Yes.
And Spotify in average. And Spotify only been around for like 6 or 7 years. How would that be possible? But if you look back now, and of course we in the HR team translated that, and we had a target. We want people to stay for 4 years, not 8, but 4 years. And here we are at almost 4 years in average tenure in total for the population.
Fantastic.
And we have some key metrics there also to see that we have been able to kind of do a good transition for this hypergrowth and still retaining people and also optimizing them for more mobility to make sure that the right individuals find the next job within Spotify. So that's we have some good signals and some proof points now with the data as well that we are moving in the right direction.
Fantastic, and you will walk us through that in a sec, because you talk about the sweet spot.
Yeah.
What is the sweet spot?
Yeah.
I think it's a really nice and good term.
Yeah, it's funny when you say it like that, because I think it's more of a term that we just popped up as part of a brainstorming meeting. What we want to come to with the sweet spot is that we saw that in the old days of Spotify with hypergrowth, we could optimize more for the individual's passion and so on. And then we saw that was like a gap between senior leadership, super focused on execution, delivery, and then we had like first line managers, hey, but Spotify, I don't recognize myself. You said that I can support my employees to move in a different direction and then maybe come back. Is that not the case anymore? So then we had to find a way to kind of making sure that all managers and also employees at all levels have more context so they can match their own drivers and passion and motivation for where they want to go with the business need.
Exactly.
It is obvious. I mean, that's what HR are here for, to find talent at the right place.
Yes, at the right time.
Yeah, at the right times. But it's still, when you come from this hyper-growth environment, we had to emphasize even more on that, finding the sweet spots to match the individual's growth and the skills with the business need. So when you look at HR's activity, and I also think that helped us within HR to also when we had discussions or different activities that didn't turn out so good, then we had to kind of go back and see if we are really optimizing and finding that match and the sweet spot there, and if the program or hiring process or whatever it was that we really kind of optimized for the business need there.
Great. And how do you do that matching? How do you find that sweet spot? That's always the million-dollar question.
Yeah, it is, for sure. If you take one step back there, it's really going back also to building an internal talent marketplace, because the term marketplace in itself is kind of built to kind of find those sweet spots in the same way as we are building a product, a marketplace for creators and consumers to meet each other. So that can happen in many different forms. I mean, if you take the most easy example is the senior roles.
Right.
If we have an opening with the senior roles and we start our matchmaking internally, we have our succession planning in place, then the relevant HR professionals meet to map out who can be relevant for this step and who is ready now, and then hopefully we have a solid list of individuals. And that defining those sweet spots have also triggered a lot of great activities that just organically happen within HR as well. And I think I mentioned when we met a year ago that TA has been so critical in this kind of, first of all, mindset shift, and then the curiosity on how they operate in that. Because if we have one, let's say, director role, it might be 20 up to 30 candidates that are being discussed in some shape and form. And with just having a discussion around them, we have more talent intelligence around those 20, 30 candidates.
True.
Then maybe 3 or 4 or 5 are passed through to interviews. And also that we see that those discussions, because some of those 20, 30 candidates, maybe they have more of a informal chat. Hey, more of a future talk around, hey, how do you see your career? Not a formal interview. And then we get more talent intelligence. They get to know more about the business. They maybe get recognized that they have been on the list. Maybe they're not successful for this role, but they have learned something, and then we can move on. On the other hand, we have also the candidates that we source internally that might not be successful, that will not get the role. So this is also a way for us to look at that as a learning for the candidates. Of course, it's a disappointment if you're going for something and you are not getting it. But also that we see that having more internal candidates in those critical role discussions triggers organically great conversations to open up.
True. Yeah, very good. Does this mean now, with that focus on homegrown talent, do you fill all your vacancies with internally, or do you still hire from the external market?
No, it's a great question, and it's a balance act. In the data as of now, when we closed last year, we see that 1/3 of the roles are filled with internal candidates, so 30%. If we go back just a bit more than 2 years, it was only 10%. So from 10 to 30% in a bit more than 2 years. So that is, of course, moving in a positive direction. But here we also have learned a lot that with help from knowing our talent better, we also have to upfront decide, hey, is this a role that we will go internally, or should we open up externally?
Right.
And of course, that's a bit of a balance act, but with help from some data, we do informed decisions there. So also an easy example, if we know for sure that this is a skill that we is a bit scarce in the organization and maybe more open roles, then we open up externally right away. Then of course we can have active internal candidates that are ready to move, and of course they are part of the process, but we are not actively sourcing for those roles where we know that it will anyway be a future need, so to say. So more strategic roles like that. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. So it basically means that you do some serious thinking before you actually post a role externally. You first look into the internal pool.
Yes, absolutely. And it can also be a mixture of external and internal candidates. And it's also from a diversity perspective here, because it's harder to move those numbers, of course, when we are not growing as an organization. So this is also why we need to be even more thoughtful and mindful about, especially on the mid-level, like the bench we have there, to know this talent. So we also make sure that we, irrespective of if we go internal or external, have that lens on as well.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned this earlier. How about leaders, C-level or senior leaders? What are the learnings and the experience there from homegrown versus external hires?
Good question. One interesting data point there also, when we touched on homegrown talent and long tenured employees, is that I said that in average we are up to 4 years in average tenure. If we look at the director plus level, it's even more. It's 72 months was the latest data point I saw on this. And we also see another interesting data point there, is that it's almost 70% of the managers that are at senior manager and above. So that's the senior managers and above, up to directors and also C-level, have been promoted, growing within.
Exactly.
And of course that comes with a long tenure. It's a correlation there between. But that's also a proof point for us that we are a complex business, and it's also that the networking and understanding different parts of the business, that is one of the success factors to have a long career at Spotify and also be able to get a promotion and the more senior roles.
Wonderful. So does this then mean that when you fuel your talent bench externally, is that on the junior levels and maybe on the specialist roles where you see that, okay, these are the skills that we don't have internally, we need to bring in?
Still work in progress, and it's not one size fits all here, but we see that's something that I'm super thankful for the TA team, that they, when we are assessing open vacancies, we always challenge ourselves looking at the seniority distribution in that context, because the goal is always to kind of, as you say, to see if there's opportunity here to maybe use our summer internship program.
Exactly.
Because we know that's going to come towards the summer. We have done that talent mapping. What do we need in the summer internship program? We also have a guesstimate on how many we want to convert into full permanent employees. Can that be a funnel to use? Or also if there is a possibility to basically just downgrade it, because it's those kind of things that creates this kind of trickle effects in the organization. And I mean, it's always two sides of the cone with long tenure. Because we see that we have a strong bench at the mid-level, of course, and that's the critical bench with talent we really need to retain.
True.
And some of them might be a bit frustrated with, hey, looking upwards, hey, you're blocking me here,
exactly.
or I applied for 2 roles, but you say I'm not ready, and so on. So of course there needs to be some healthy attrition there as well, and to be able to create those opportunities for the bench on the mid-level there. Because that creates a trickle effect. So if let's say a senior director is leaving Spotify, over time that puzzle can create 3 or 4 possible moves.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. Exactly. That's the beauty. That's the beauty of HR, and also the work that we do, right? Together with the rest of the organization. So what do you foresee for 2025 this year?
Yes. If 24 was more of the exploration and a lot of discussions, also mindset shift within HR team, I see 25 as more as building on the things we've learned now. And it's not to do more, it's maybe less but better. And we have, of course, continued to build on our succession planning. We still are a bit more siloed, so we need to broaden that, especially on the senior levels, to have leads to lean in even more there into that talent bench. We also have talent intelligence that we discussed before. We have done great steps in the right direction. We've learned a lot. Now we have tooling and we have a lot of capabilities that we can improve even more during this year. So that is two things. I also see that, as we touched on before, the sweet spot, finding those sweet spots in an organic way and making sure that first line managers and employees, when they drive their own career, that we have finding those sweet spots and organically people are finding their next opportunity to things that are even more business critical for the organization. And that is also a balance act that we are exploring also together with the teams that are doing planning for upcoming bets that we have around the corner.
Wonderful. Continuous learning, never stops. Looking forward to 2025.
Yeah, me too.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Do you remember how we close these sessions?
Of course, yeah.
Let's do it.
Stay safe, stay active, stay strong.
Idemo dalje. Johan.
Stay safe, stay strong, stay active. Idemo dalje.
Idemo.
Idemo.
Idemo
Idemo.
dalje.
Idemo dalje. Idemo dalje.
Alltså, folk är så bra.
Idemo dalje. Ja, det börjar bli en grej också. Det sätter sig i huvudet på alla.
Snyggt. Ser väldigt så här outdoorsy ut.
Ja, kanske. Så city hiker.
Skitfint. Jättefin var den här. När jag är i London, då är det så att när man rör sig i vissa distrikt, det ser fan inte klokt ut. Alla går med de där västarna. Det är som en pullover fast det är med dragkedja här. Och så öppnar man upp den liksom. Och så ser man skjortan under. Alltså det är som ett gäng pingviner liksom. Alla ser likadana ut.
Ja, jag vet.
Alltså, det är inte så att jag tycker att du ser ut. Men jag bara såg, okej, jag känner igen det här lite grann.
Men den här är lite mer outdoors.
Den är skitsnygg, Johan. Den är mycket bra. Den är liksom on brand på något sätt också. La du är men du vet, Johan.
Ja, men jag fattar.
Så det var ju mycket.
Jag tror jag svängde om det bra.
Du är skitbra, politiker.